last week about Emmanuel and Adebayor. Have there been any progress on that front? Any update for us?
Well, Adebayor and a couple of others that have been mentioned, we're still going down the line of. There's a couple more come to light. Nicklas Bendtner is available. Somebody else we're looking at. So just somebody we feel would fit into our group and give us a lift in terms of nice to see a big player come in. So we'll see.
Is Bafetimbi Gomis at Swansea on your list? And are the club actually talking to Swansea about a possible swap involving Dwight Gayle?
Well, that's one of those mysterious ones. There's been no contact, as far as I'm aware, between the chairman or the chief executives of those clubs. I'm talking about ours and Swansea's. A lot of this, of course, is dictated to by the agents who are trying to earn some money, and you don't begrudge them that. But we just try to keep on top of it all. If chief executives or chairman ring us, we give them the truth. Are we interested or not? And I think that's the way it should be done and conducted. And that's the way Steve and myself do it.
Are you optimistic about getting someone in? I mean, the window is open for...
I just think for our fans, we're having one of those seasons where it's been terrific. We've hit a little bit of a lull, and it's one of those times we can kind of make a change in terms of giving ourselves a lift from outside of our internal group. So therefore, we're going to try and take that opportunity. That would make sense for our fans, for our players, and for our chairman, I have to say that as well. He's probably more keen than me. So he's hunting around for one.
How is Dwight Gayle? He returned to training, I think, last week.
Yes.
Do you hope that he might be fit for this weekend?
Yeah, no, I probably won't include him this weekend. My staff, my medical staff, are on their knees praying that I don't use him and lose him. So he'll wait for next week, but he'll be okay. He's trained very well. We go into this game with roughly the same squad we had at Man City.
Where again, you didn't score, so how much of a concern is the lack of goals in the Premier League right now for you?
Well, if you look at the sides who have had terrific seasons, who probably was unexpected to have terrific seasons, ourselves, Watford, Leicester, you could possibly put Stoke in there, but probably that would be unfair on those because they had a great year last year. We've all struggled in January, and there's no mistake in that because the bigger clubs have an advantage. All these games, even Spurs, who have got a bigger squad than us, a squad that's been at the top of the league for a long time, they have numbers, they have experience to deal with this pressure of games, and we can't do our work that gives us a slight advantage. This week, we haven't had a midweek game. So we've managed to do some work for the first time, perhaps since prior to mid-December, because we've been going from game to game to game. So for teams like us and Watford, that's everything for us, particularly our coaching staff and our players, really to understand exactly what our process is. So we've been able to nail that down. I'm a little bit more confident going into this game than I was going into Manchester City. Not because of the opposition, I fear, of a lesser quality, but because our preparation has had more time and we've had more rest.
What would you give for a goal, though?
Well, of course, we want a goal, and probably my experience of these periods in my managerial career when you can't score for 3 or 4 weeks is that it's usually a mistake from the opposition or an error. So we'll be hoping for one of those. That'll help. At the same token, if someone wants to smash it in the top corner, I wouldn't be saying no. But yeah, it's a worry, and of course, what you can't hope that it starts to affect is the psychology of the group, and we start doing things that is not normal for us. In between this run in the league, we played in the FA Cup and scored a couple of goals. It isn't like a complete barren run, and we need to lean on what we did at Southampton, which was only a couple of weeks ago.
Do you sense it might be weighing on the players' minds, though?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not going to disguise that. You can't help that the media as it is and the way that our fans are on social media, there's so much conversation and talk generally about football in this country that those statistics come to the fore. When you're on losing runs like Watford, how'd you get out of it, blah, blah, blah. But The truth of it is that we've worked towards a process to try and beat Spurs. And you know what? If we don't score and it's 0-0, I'll take that as well. At the moment, we want to just get a result in the Premier League, and I think the result is more important than actually scoring.
How has Wayne Hennessey been in training this week? You said after the match at Man City, and the mistake that you made there, and of course you made a mistake at Aston Villa as well, that you would see how he was this week.
Well, he'll play Saturday. He's battered and bruised, though. We've not let him hide from those mistakes. Made it very clear to him that there's no point burying your head in the sand, that you've been brilliant, player of the month for December, he was, and that 2 mistakes, oh, well, that's okay then, because you're player of the month for December. No. You've got to get back to your best, quickly. Show on Saturday to all these fans that you can cope with a couple of errors, and you've got the mentality to do that. I have no doubt that you will. But of course, the focus will be on him, and therefore an added bit of pressure into him. This makes for you as a player, makes for you as a manager. I've had it as a manager, I've had it as a player. It's when you get strong.
What sort of character is he? Is he a strong...
Laid back character, yeah, laid back. You know, it's not one I don't think to lay in bed and worry at night too much. But I've made him worry. Yeah, so my process has been to get him out of his bed and, yeah, get into action. But he's a good guy, a really honest guy, and our fans, I think, appreciate that he's been terrific this year. So, you know, we're all joking aside, it's a serious business. He's made a couple of errors, spotlight's on him, needs to respond.
Tottenham are in the top 4. Do you see them as genuine title contenders?
Yeah, of course, in terms of the run they're on, the good confidence. I think the squad is strong. They showed that at Leicester last night. Manager's experienced. Got the best goal scorer, in my opinion, in the Premier League, and I include Vardy in that. I think Harry Kane is the best, and we're going to have to try and stop him. So that gives you a massive advantage. Whether they're good enough to catch the top 2 teams, Manchester City and Arsenal, who I think are the best 2, remains to be seen, but they'll give it a good go, I'm sure.
Mauricio Pochettino is still relatively new, I suppose, to the Premier League. He's talked about building a legacy at Tottenham, but he's also getting linked with some big clubs. Does he have a big future ahead?
Well, he's only done 2 jobs in this country, done them both terrifically well, carries himself well, handles the situation. Had a lot of senior players at Spurs that he decided not to play. That's a dangerous game sometimes for a manager to go into a big club, and he's come through that and got what he wanted on the pitch. So he's showed a lot of mental logic and strength, and therefore he's got himself into a good club with good youth strategy. Tottenham always produce players, so he's got a chance of a really decent legacy there. Whether you can have a legacy in the current game, I don't know. Only Arsene Wenger has one at the moment, but of course we all dream of that.
You talked about Harry Kane. What would you give for a Harry Kane right now?
Well, if Harry Kane was in our team, I think we'd be in the top 4, if I'm honest. That's the difference that a striker can make of that quality. What we have is a player, Connor Wickham, who's not too dissimilar in age from Harry Kane, trying to learn that going through the middle of the pitch. And him coming back to us has been a huge lift. So forget about anything else at Manchester City in terms of the result. The biggest factor in that game was that Connor was back, and he produced a good number 9 display. If he gets goals on the back of the displays he's done, we're going to have ourselves a really good player, and we can start talking about Connor Wickham rather than Harry Kane.
Is there any other team news for us?
No. I think we're, as I say, everybody who was at Manchester City will be available for this game.
On a different subject, the head of UK anti-doping has said that it would be naive to think that doping didn't happen in football. Should we be concerned?
I think in all aspects of sport, and the tennis situation this week with Djokovic has highlighted, you never take your eye off the ball in any sport, whether it's gambling, whether it's drugs, and certainly we don't here, and something that you have to keep an eye on, because people want to get to the top of the field, and sometimes to get at the top of the field, some people will bend the rules, steroids to get a bigger body, to run further distances. We have obviously heard rumours in the past of foreign countries maybe into that kind of enhancement, but I've never been proven as far as I'm aware, and certainly in this country I've never seen it, and I hope I never see it. And even recreational drugs, that there's been a big part of our game, is something we must keep a close eye on. And I think that was very forthright to approach Arsene Wenger. I think he's somebody that has much more experience than I do, and I think that's a good process to approach someone like him, and I hope that they see that through.
Thanks, Ian. Mark?
Alan, people from the outside looking in will see the results and think Palace are on a really bad run, but display-wise, is it a different story? Because just thinking about the fact if Damien had put away that chance at Man City and Wilfred's shot had gone in rather than hit the post, it could have been a very different story.
Well, there are what ifs and what maybes, and I'm afraid we don't. That's just not the business we're in. We're in the business of results. The fact that we haven't scored just underlines the fact that we haven't lost as many as people might assume. Obviously, we had 2 0-0 draws, but the 2 quick defeats at Villa, Chelsea, and then followed up by Man City, has put us under a little bit of a cloud, and so therefore, for us, it's about getting back to the process of what we're good at doing. And I think at Man City, although the result was poor on our sheet, the performance wasn't. And there was a lot of good signs at Manchester City, and but we need to reflect that in the Spurs game, and then going forward, we have a good run of games coming up. And actually, the Spurs, if we could get a result against Spurs, I think it would be a big lift for those games coming up.
You mentioned the performance actually being better than the results suggested at Manchester City. Does that mean that confidence hasn't taken a hit despite the winless run in the league?
Well, I think confidence in front of goal is something that I'll be keeping an eye on, because you know, when you haven't scored for 3 or 4 weeks, you can start snatching at chances, and we've worked hard this week on trying to get our strikers to relax, to set themselves to shoot rather than set themselves to pass or set themselves for a first touch. So we're going to try and optimise our chances. But our penalty area entries into Manchester City were good. We're more than Manchester City. We actually got in their box more than they did ours. But, you know, you need that final moment, and that's just escaping us. But you've got the likes of Cabaye, Punchin, Zaha, Connor Wickham back to full fitness, MacArthur, who's popped up with goals. We have Fraser, who has a good experience of scoring, and Shamak. So we have the players to do it. There's nothing that we need to bring in externally to improve us. We can do it from within. Having said that, you know, we are trying to work on improving that situation.
Has it been a frustrating window for you so far, bearing what you just said in mind?
No, not really. I think there's a lot of noises on the market, most of which we think is being generated by agents and media, and it makes for good news and for you guys to keep it all bubbling along. And we, you know, I think it's part of the game. I don't mind it. I quite enjoy it. The most important part, though, is that people are realistic. And I think the problem we're having a little bit, chief executives and managers, is what are realistic figures at the moment? You know, some of the figures that are being banded are out for what I think are good players, but not great players, are just unbelievable. And you look at the deal that we announced this week for Martial at Manchester United, and wow, you know, there's some, you know, the high level of this game is becoming some really big deals, and we need to make sure that we're not getting outpriced and that we're in the game. And it's very difficult for us, West Ham, Everton, Liverpool to a degree, to kind of know where to pitch in and not expose ourselves. The most important thing in the current trend is that, as it says in the list that's come out this week of the most teams with the most money or the most assets, is that, you know, a lot of the Premier League is operating at a healthy state. We don't want clubs to put themselves at risk. Look at the the car crashes we got in the Football League, some of these clubs like Bolton and Sheffield Wednesday fighting their way back, and Leeds, you know, we don't want this in our game. So we're all being, I think, with a new contract in the summer, I think it's very important that we all keep sensible heads and try to do deals that are right for both clubs.
And just finally, on Tottenham, they arrive here flying high, in with a chance of maybe the title. But can you take something from the game at White Hart Lane when you only lost narrowly and Bakary Sakho hit the post, I think, as well in that?
I'm glad you turned up this morning, because cheering me up with our near misses. But Spurs, I think on the day, if I'm honest, it was a really tight game. I don't think there was much between the teams. I think where they are right now, and when we met each other, is a little bit different. I think they're in a better place than when we played them before, and we're not so. So the fact that, you know, you'd have to say they were favourites for this game, but we're at home. We're looking forward to it. We like our performances at home this year. Apart from the Chelsea game, every game's been nip and tuck, and I hope the Tottenham game is too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been watching your documentary in our office, Alan. First of all, it's for an American market. Why did you agree to such incredible access that we very rarely see here in the UK? Was that a tough decision for you to make?
I think the thing with the NBC market is that, you know, this is a global brand, the Premier League. We really have to understand that. And for clubs like ourselves to give them unique access is something that a top club might not want to do. And I thought, and we thought, I shouldn't say we thought it would be good for the profile of the club, where we want to take it. We want to be open. We want to say to people, there's nothing hidden here. Everything we do is above board. And transparency in the fact that, you know, we're a good club, and we want to try and gain some fans from America and around the world for the way we approach games. The shows are going out over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we're hoping they're a success.
Did it take much persuading for the players to get on board?
No, players are pretty smart. It's pretty good for their, you know, agendas individually. But the most important thing is that we've tried to do it in a way that doesn't affect us in the way we work. So that's important. And the guys that we've had in have conducted themselves very, very well. And therefore, so far, it's been a success in terms of not interfering too much. And we wait and see whether the American market likes what they see.
Have you been slightly pushed or cajoled? You talk a lot about the American sports in the documentary yourself. You talk about your passion for the Green Bay Packers that perhaps we didn't know as much about. How much have you been encouraged to find your slightly more American side?
No, I just think that I love American sport. I think anybody who loves sport can admire the way they approach all of their genres of sport that they have. I just think that there's a lot to be gained from them. We obviously have American owners here. It was perhaps important for them too, and that a crossover of knowledge between us and their sides will take place as well later on in this season and in the summer. So I think it's about embracing other sports sometimes and trying to gain what you can and getting those marginal gains that we all talk about.
Do you think we could see a documentary like this? Although this is available for Crystal Palace fans on your website, do you think it's something we could see perhaps more mainstream broadcasters here in the UK be given that kind of access to the Premier League sites?
But yeah, I think it's something that we did. It's something that's in kind of full editorial control from us, and I think that's important for a club. If you're going to expose yourself, and a lot of the TV in England doesn't want that, and therefore, you know, you can't protect yourselves, and we're just trying to protect our family, our staff, and our players. And I think, you know, if you was to give us that access, then you probably would get more access.
And just lastly on that, there was a story in the Scottish press that was picked up when Steve Parish was having a chat on the phone with someone about a possible striker from another league up there. Were you worried perhaps that there might be some crossover there about some of little bits of conversation, jigsaw identification, especially in the transfer window?
No, because I say, you know, we have editorial control, so anything that goes out would be a bit of an error if we missed something like that. There's lots of things they've filmed that we won't be able to put in it because, as you say, it's confidential and some of the information is damaging to, I guess, ourselves and other clubs. So, you know, we have to protect everybody.